Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres.
Present.
Mr. Kazire.
Present.
Mr. Arthur.
Here.
Ms. Shudek.
Here.
Mr. LaFurla.
Present. Next, we have a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of our agenda. Is there a motion?
I move approval of our agenda as presented.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And our agenda has been approved. Now we have approval of the minutes from the workshop business meeting of July 27th, 2021. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the minutes of the workshop business meeting of July 27th, 2021 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And our minutes from July 27th have been approved. Next, we have public participation. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board regarding agenda items or other matters of concern. We did have two individuals request to speak with the board, so I will go ahead and introduce them one at a time first. First, we have Francis. Please go ahead and come up to the podium if you're here. Good evening. Please just state your name and your address, please.
You bet. I'm Fran Mears-Wapar, 213 West Ferndale Drive, Council Bluffs.
Thank you.
I'm here today to speak to you about essentially some of the information that's coming to bear from these areas that have been at the forefront, the schools that have been at the forefront with this resurgent Delta variant. There's been some modeling that was done on what's happening in those different areas. I do have some information to share here, or at least get in the record. I don't know if that's possible.
Sure.
And I have enough copies here for folks in the board. There's been some modeling done. It was essentially Georgia Tech, North Carolina State, University of North Carolina, in concert with the National Institute of Health and the CDC. They got together and they did some modeling, particularly of vulnerable elementary students and the middle students and the high school students, on what was going to happen potentially with this Delta variant. The biggest difference between last year and this year is this Delta variant is different. It's been around the world. It's had millions of new hosts. It's changed. It's a lot stickier. So it's something that transmits a lot easier. This is different than what we saw last year. So specifically what I'm sharing with you, those numbers that are in front of you, is how this looks like it's going to impact Council Bluffs in the current scenario that we have, which is minimal to no testing and sporadic at best mask usage. So out of all the students that we have in the district, and these numbers are from last year, so at least they represent something similar to your reality this year, I'm sure. About 8,500 students that are in the districts K through 12, this is K through 12, it's going to impact about 53% of those students, or about 4,500 students are going to have new infections. These aren't folks, this is over half, these aren't folks that have already been exposed and have some degree of protection or have already been vaccinated, I hope. So this thing is taken off like wildfire. It's not the same COVID that we had last year. This is a lot more contagious. Specific to the elementary students, I'll say the K through 6 grade, that's looking at you've got 4,500 students roughly there, and about 2,800 of those students are going to be impacted. If you take a look at a hospitalization rate, this is a potential hospitalization rate from the Association of Pediatric Medics. Between 54% at 1.9%, 54 students on the high side and 6 students on the low side will require some level of hospitalization. Again, this is elementary students only. So this thing is a lot stickier. This is getting a lot of traction. And I'm here to appeal to the board, each one of you who has a duty to these kids, to consider this, to look at this, to take it seriously. I don't think you're getting guidance from anybody in Des Moines. I don't think you're getting guidance, frankly, from anywhere. They're saying they've got it covered. It's not covered. It's just getting recognized. So again, I'm hoping you'll take this seriously. I'm willing to facilitate getting some of the folks who are involved in this model. They've already agreed to speak to the board in a closed session, however it might work for you, to help understand what's going on. So I know you've got a duty to the law. You made that clear in the last board meeting minutes. You've got a duty to help make sure that your superintendent doesn't suffer some of the same repercussions that the folks in Des Moines had. I understand that. We've also got a duty to these kids, and this thing is coming. I know it's not a comfortable thing to say. I'm in as tough a spot as anybody. So I want to just, again, thank you all for what you do, and let's not forget the duty to the kids, and anything that I can do to help facilitate this discussion, just so you understand what's under the hood on this and where the sensitivities are, I'm more than happy to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fran. And Anna Hunter, are you here? Hi, Anna. Please just state your name and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Anna Hunter. My address is 303 North 2nd Street, Council Bluffs, Iowa.
Thank you.
Yesterday was the first day of school for many Iowa students, well, except for Avoca, where 8 teachers and staff tested positive and 45-ish were quarantined, making it impossible to open the school. That's just a taste of what's to come. We saw it across the river where districts quickly flip-flopped on mask choice after students and staff, even those wearing masks, were testing positive left and right because masks don't work if everyone isn't wearing them. Classes getting down to 4 students, classes canceled, learning disrupted. Back in May, I pleaded with you to come up with a plan that worked in the confines of Governor's profligate law banning mask mandates from schools. I spurred you on with the same rally cry I give my own Council Bluffs students: you can do hard things. You had time. I offered the option of real choice for parents with mask-wearing classrooms for families who, in good faith, wanted our students to mask together to garner the full protection of the only safety measure outside of isolation that is available to them. We have a building that sits empty that would provide real choice, which is what our governor wants for Iowa families, or so she says, gallivanting around the Iowa State Fair. And yet the last time I was here, you assured me you cared, but the threat of retaliation from our governor was far too overpowering, and you would not bear the risk. Those words echo as I go over our family budget, now cut in half to accommodate homeschooling. As I drive past local businesses we can't support right now. As I see pictures of my kiddos' friends masked and unmasked and think, my kid could be safely in class with some of them, and I hope and pray they get the chance in the future. My students will safely homeschool, but I still worry about those who can't. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the board at this time? Seeing no movement, we will end the public participation. And next, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Murillo.
Thank you, Mr. LaFurla. At this time, we will have our staff and student recognition. I'd like to invite Ms. Ostrowski to the podium.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
We didn't get to do a lot of this over the summer. Everybody was on vacation, but we are very pleased tonight to be recognizing 2 staff members who really went above and beyond during our summer programming, and Dr. Murillo is going to be presenting them their awards. First, I'd like to start with our support staff member of the summer. Miss Lucy Almazan is here tonight, and I'm going to have her come forward to visit with Dr. Murillo, but I'm going to brag about you a little bit. Yeah. Lucy is a paraprofessional through the school year and was the administrative assistant of the high school program this summer. Lucy is the ultimate team player, highly organized, and always thinks about the well-being of others. She did a great job as credit recovery administrative assistant. In addition, she helped to make sure all of the students that were struggling had a place to go and cool down. She helped reset them so they could quickly rejoin the classroom and be successful. Congratulations, Lucy. Oh, Joe got out of the way. We are very fortunate in our school district to have the support of our Council of Schools Foundation that sponsors our student and staff recognition. And Lucy and our licensed staff member of the month for the summer are both getting a gift card and a trophy from the school foundation. So that's wonderful. Okay, our licensed staff member of the summer is Tamara Hibbert. Tamara, would you join Dr. Murillo? Looks like you know some of the girls here. That's good. Tamara was a teacher at our middle school camp Summer Explore program this summer. She has taught for several years at Kern, and this year is now teaching at Wilson through the school year. She is a teacher that genuinely cares about the well-being of her students. She's an inclusive person, always willing to listen or lend a helping hand. On a regular basis, she is using a trauma-informed practice while providing students with authentic learning experiences. In addition to her care for students, she's a team player who thinks critically to help solve problems among a team. Her can-do attitude alongside her infectious positivity, which I love, is appreciated during the summer months. Congratulations, Tamara. And what's wonderful is we'll be hearing about summer programming during a presentation later this evening. So, well timed. Okay, we have some students to recognize. First of all, I'd like to invite Dalton Pragan to join Dr. Murillo at the front. Dalton is our state tennis tournament qualifier. Although he represented AL in the, where did it go? Oh, it's in one of these things. I'll grab it for you. Yeah, sorry. No, I forgot to pull it out of the box. All right, Dalton. He represented Abraham Lincoln High School, his team very proudly, and was named the 2021 All KMA Land Boys Tennis to that team. Yeah. So not only at the state level, but locally, he's been celebrated. And we're glad tonight to share also that he helped the team capture the city championship with a runner-up finish at #1 singles. So congratulations, Dalton, to Coach Wilder and Dalton's parents. Glad to have you here tonight. There's so many soccer team members. Here we go.
All
Sorry about
right.
that.
Is Dalton my only tennis?
He is.
All right, let's take a picture.
And while he's taking his picture, he's a graduate. He is at, you just told me and I forgot. Buena Vista, studying business with an emphasis in finance. So. It seems like a long time since the spring sports, but we're very pleased to have them here tonight, including the 2021 state qualifying Abraham Lincoln High School girls soccer team. Again, they represent the district so well on and off the field. Tonight, we're honoring them for earning a spot at the state soccer tournament. This team had an impressive season with a record of 16-4. Congratulations to these athletes, Coach Miller, and all of the parents, some of whom are with us tonight. Coach Miller, would you be willing to join me at the podium here to call the names? And then if the parents are here, please stand as your daughter's name is called. And the board is going to recognize you at this time. That sounds like a plan.
That means I can't touch until she gives it to me.
Come out here as we go, so I can see you.
Okay. Do you have, okay. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this.
That way you can just do it.
Oh, the order you got them? Yeah. Is that okay? All right. First up, we got Hannah Schimmer. Allie Smith. Sylvia Stott. Tegan. Ava Watkins. Taylor Ferguson. Alicia Mascarinas. Lexi Mayo. Piper McGuire. Haley Santon. And Trista Baker.
We've got you. We just buried you.
Hey, let's take a picture. Coach, come and join us.
Big team.
How many years have you guys made it that far? We're on year 3?
Third time in a row.
Oh,
Canceled the season
You're
for
gonna
us.
get one soon. You're coming in that door, right? Right, okay.
Yeah, parents, come on up. And there are 22 girls in total on the team, 2 of whom have graduated.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, can you see us, Kelsey? Yeah. All right, show your stars. All right, everyone.
And your smiles.
And your smiles.
Thank you.
We're gonna get one soon. We're getting there. Okay, you ready for me to move on? Or do you wanna say something? Okay. At this time, and I want to thank all the parents for being here tonight and the students. Just great spring sports. You know, in the midst of the pandemic, we still had some real competition going on, and the students got to enjoy. At this time, we're going to move on to our student achievement reports. I'd like to ask Dr. Borthman to join me at the podium to present our 2021 Iowa State Assessments of Student Progress. We were looking forward to seeing these results because we truly wanted to see how our students did in comparison to years during the pandemic and the year before. So I think you'll be pleased to see some of the results and see how we're able to dig into the data and use that data and do some comparison to our MAP assessment. So Dr. Borthman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Merlo. It's my pleasure tonight to provide the board with an update on our 2021 state assessment results. Before I begin tonight, I want to review just a little bit about the Iowa statewide assessment of student progress. This is a computer-administered fixed form assessment, which means students take it on the computer, but every student takes the same number of questions in the exact same order. Our students take this test in English language arts and mathematics in grades 3 through 11, and they take it in science in grades 5, 8, and 10. This is the second time that we've taken this test. It was first administered in 2019. It was not administered in 2020 due to the COVID shutdown, and then we took it last spring in April and May. Primarily, this assessment is used for federal and state accountability, most notably to check compliance with the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is the federal education accountability law that replaced No Child Left Behind, which asks states to identify school districts and individual school buildings that need additional help and support, and that are subsequently labeled as either targeted or comprehensive schools in needs of assistance based on these test results. Iowa is currently seeking a waiver from ESSA determinations for 2021 due to the interrupted school year, and that waiver is currently in public comment phase for 30 days right now while goes to the U.S. Department of Education for consideration. We do believe that that waiver will likely be granted. On the state side, this assessment is used for the Iowa School Performance Profile site that labels school districts in one of 6 categories from priority school all the way through to high performing. Regardless of the waiver, those will be used again this year, those different rankings. So that's a little overview of the ISASP, where it came from. You're probably familiar with its precursor, which was the Iowa assessments, and before that was the Iowa Test of Basic Skills or the Iowa Test of Educational Development, all of which are fixed form norm reference tests. So the only difference is that the ISASP test is now only normed in Iowa. It's not normed nationally any longer. So I'm going to provide tonight an overview of some of our results by grade level for both reading, math, and science, and then set a little context and some comparisons to some other measures that we have. So first tonight I want to take a look at reading, or at mathematics, excuse me. What you see in front of you here are the percentages of students who scored at the proficient and advanced levels on the ISASP test in the spring. You'll notice that generally speaking, our students perform higher at elementary grades than they do at high school grades. That matches what you have also seen before on our MAP assessment. And we hover around that 60% mark in elementary school and around the 50% mark in our secondary schools. When you compare that to the 2019 test, you can see that by cohort, we do see declines in mathematics. And so this is 2 years removed. The blue line shows where those students performed at the previous 2 grade levels ago. And that matched what we saw in our MAP results as well. Our declines in mathematics were small, but they were bigger than our declines in reading. And you'll see the same thing holds true for our ISASP results as well. When we look at the state average, you can see that for the most part, we're within between 5 and 10% of the state average. Remember, this is required of all students in the state of Iowa that take this assessment in the spring. And for the most part, with the exception of 9th grade, almost all of our grade levels perform at or above the 50th percent range. You'll remember when we took the winter MAP assessment, MAP provided a predictor of where they thought our students would perform on the ISASP test in grades 3 through 8. That's where MAP has done a linking study between the ISASP test and the NWA MAP. And you can see for the most part, it was within a couple of percentage points predictive of where we scored in mathematics. NWA is taking on a linking study for high school, and we hope to be able to use that data next year to make some predictions. But what was more helpful was when we looked at the actual spring data. So the blue line here shows how our students actually performed on the MAP test in April and May. And you'll see that it did a pretty good job of identifying our elementary. It was within 1% or 2 for our elementary. It under-identified our performance in middle school and over-identified our performance in high school. We also took a look at our different subgroups to see how students performed based on different groups. You'll see that there's some variation across our subgroups. And notably, this often occurs as we've looked at our MAP data in this way before. And that primarily is due to most of our subgroups are very small. For example, our Asian subgroup is less than 1%. Our Native American and Pacific Islander group is less than 1%. Our African American group is about 3.5%, Hispanic at 11%, and our white subgroup is about 78%. So by far our largest subgroup. You'll notice that the lowest subgroup performance is among English language learners, and you'll note that has troubled us in the past. So we dug into that data a little bit deeper. And we also looked at the English language learners who had been with us but had been exited from our program. And when we looked at that data, what we found is those students actually are our highest performing subgroup. So in order for our students to be exited from EL services, they have to be proficient on 2 measures. One that tests their ability to use English language, and the other that tests their ability against their peers on a norm referenced assessment. So they have to be proficient on this assessment in order to be exited. So it makes sense that those students would have some of our lower proficiencies because they've not yet been exited from the program. But it does help us understand better that once they are in our program and take advantage of it, that they're able to achieve at just as high of levels as everyone else. Lastly, I would note that our male and female is right next to each other in mathematics. And so we don't see very many dips between those two subgroups. We'll turn our attention to reading, and I'll note that the first thing that jumps out at you is that third grade data. It is woefully lower than any of the other ones. That trend was also seen across the state of Iowa. And unfortunately, it does not match any of our other indicators. It does not match any of our MAP data. And quite frankly, we are suspect of the validity of those scores in third grade. When we looked at the state average, you see a 15% decrease in that grade level and only in that grade level. And so we are not convinced that that is an accurate measure of where our students are in third grade, because we have 3 MAP data points that point to a totally different result. And I'll show you that here in a minute. But one of the things you'll also notice about this set of data is that it is much higher than our math data. In some grade levels, it's about almost 10% higher. And that's simply because, as we've said in math before, our reading started off higher than our math did. We went into the pandemic. Reading what stayed stronger than math, and math has been more fragile for us as we move through this interrupted school year in 2020. When you look at where we were in 2019, for the most part, several grade levels increased proficiency. If you look at our 5th grade cohort, our 8th grade cohort, they all improved. The only one that decreased was our 7th grade cohort from 2019 in reading. This is the chart I referred to a minute ago. If you look at the state average, you see that huge dip in third grade on the yellow line. That's where the state was also about 15% different than they were in other grade levels. And so that leads us to believe that there is something not quite right about that particular data point. But you can see that we are pretty much consistently across grade levels the same distance from the state average, all the way from 4th grade all the way to 11th grade. This was the yellow line represents our winter prediction from MAP that kind of gave us an idea of where we would score. You'll notice that 4th grade was underreported where we would score. 6th grade was about right on, but 7th grade was way over-reported. And so that gives us a little bit of pause about the 7th grade data as well, asking why it is so different than the other grade levels. But when we look at spring map, we can see that 7th grade was a difficult year for us this year. It was one of our lower performing grade levels on map. And for the most part, we were either at or above our spring map data on ISASP, especially in our middle school grades and our elementary grades. Again, this shows the different subgroups, their proficiency by subgroup. You'll notice that English language learners that have been exited from our program are our 2nd highest performing subgroup. And in this case, in reading, our females are outperforming our males by almost 10%, which that phenomenon we've seen in previous years. We previously had seen it with math, but that gap has been closed. One thing you will also note is our subgroup of poverty. Dr. Shudak has done some additional analysis and looked at how poverty impacts all of these subgroups. And it's the one thing that you can't escape or get away from. And when you take poverty out of the equation, our subgroup data by race looks very similar. So poverty has a very powerful impact on the subgroup, regardless of race, regardless of gender, or regardless of program that is provided. Like I said earlier, we administer the science test in 3 grades. This is as prescribed by the state legislature. When we look at where we were in 2019, we're almost identical to where we scored in 2019. We looked at the state average. We're a little bit below the state average in most of our grade levels. And our spring map data, we were higher in both of the grade levels where we tested spring map. There is no predictor that the state has right now for NWEA. You'll see that the subgroup data looks pretty much like the other subgroup data that we showed. Some of the subgroups perform a little bit better than others, but once again, poverty continues to be the #1 factor that has the most influence on subgroup student achievement throughout our district. So a few key observations tonight. You'll notice that math declined slightly, while reading was generally unchanged when we compared it to the assessment results from 2 years ago. We still have some misgivings about the third grade data because we have multiple measures that really provide us data that's actually timely and actionable that we can do something with. Our spring map achievement was generally not predictive of ISASP achievement. It was in some grade levels, but generally speaking, there were too many differences for us to feel confident that ISASP is able to be predicted by map. And as I noted, that we do have some differences between our subgroups, but map is a much better way for us to do something about that than ISASP. So at this time, I would pause and welcome any questions that you might have about our state assessment results.
Any questions from the board?
Sure. Typically, how long are our students in the English learner program before they are exited? And then how long, or how many of those years are they supported through additional funding through state and federal funds, so that we can make sure that they're receiving the resources they need to be able to successfully exit the English learner program?
Yeah, so interestingly, we are provided funds for 5 years of service, but we support all of our English learners regardless of how many years they've been in program. And so once they're identified to receive service, we serve them, whether that's 1 year that they need service or 12 years. The state law this year, the state legislature changed the funding formula a little bit for English language learners and broke them into 2 groups and gave us a little bit different weighted funding for those 2 groups. But still, 5 years is the maximum amount. The vast majority of our students are exited in their elementary years. If we can get them when they're in elementary, we can get them out of the program. The older they get, the harder it is for them to pick up language, and the longer they stay in our program.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one more. At least one more. What have we identified in our poverty subgroup that is continuing to allow this group to underperform? What are we missing as a board to be able to support Dr. Murillo and you and our staff that is critical to them performing at a grade level?
That's the $1 million question, is how do you equalize the background knowledge, the experiences, the social emotional needs of students who come with a vast variety of different needs. And in our community, we see that number continuing to increase. In our last school year, we had about 69% of all of our students who would meet that qualification of low socioeconomic status. All of our students receive through the community eligibility program, free lunch. So we're trying to do as many things as we can to provide a strong universal support system, whether that's academically or social emotionally, so that we even the playing field. It's one of the key components of universal preschool, is making sure that as many of our students get off to an even start. It's one of the key motivators behind the early learning program and the early learning center, so that we can minimize as much as possible the effects that poverty has on students when they come to our doors. But regardless, we will do whatever we can to even the playing field for our kids, to remove as many barriers as we can for them. But knowing that when they come to us and that with that baggage, we have an uphill battle. We have a bigger job to do because of the differences in the skills and the experiences that those students have had.
So, Dr. Vorthman, the data for poverty now, is that, now that we're not doing so much with free reduced lunch, how are we capturing all that data? I mean, through other programs, I'm guessing, but.
We still capture that data, but we just don't capture it directly from parents filling out those forms. So we collect it directly from the state of Iowa through direct certification, Medicaid eligibility, and basically service eligibility. And quite frankly, that data probably now is more accurate than it ever has been.
All right. So are we also tracking, are there any other subgroups we're tracking, either high mobility or other things that we track that we just don't show?
The only other couple that we do track is like military connected.
Okay.
That's a subgroup that we have to look at because of ESSA. We also look at a homeless subgroup. I don't often report on either of those because the N is so small that you would be able to identify those students personally. So we're looking at individual grade levels who have fewer than 10 students in them. So that's why we track those data, but we suppress them when we present them because it's personally identifiable information at that point because the group is so small.
Any other questions, discussion? Thank you, Dr. Borthman.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
At this time, we have a presentation on our summer learning, and Dr. Borthman's going to introduce our two presenters, and we are pretty fortunate to be able to offer these programs. And because Iowa does not provide funding for summer learning, summer school. And so our partnership, which I know Carly's going to speak to a little bit and give a tip of the hat to, but I'm really thankful for them, and I'm thankful for our summer learning programs that we have. So Dr. Borthman?
Thank you. Like Dr. Murillo said, our summer learning program continues to be a hallmark across the state of Iowa and the subject of a lot of jealousy when we talk to other school districts that we have a very active summer learning program. And that really is to the credit of these two folks that are going to present tonight. Ms. Carly Gates is our Assistant Director of Teacher and Learner Supports. She oversees summer school as well as our MTSS programs and our elementary literacy program. And then Ms. Lori Durand, our Director of Special Education, who oversees our extended school year program for students with special needs.
Thank you, Dr. Worthman. Good evening. After one summer of virtual programming, we are back face-to-face this summer, so I'm excited to share some of the highlights with you. As in previous summers, there are summer programs available at each grade level, K through 12. Our elementary program serves students who qualify based on their reading achievement. The middle school program is open to all students who are entering grades 6 through 8, and it's hosted at the Henry Dorley Zoo. LIFT, Leveraging Youth for the Freshman Team, is a freshman transition program that's available to all incoming freshmen. And then we offer credit recovery at the high school level, as well as extended school year services that Lori will talk about here in a few minutes. And then finally, Kids and Company provide services during the summer months, and they even provide wraparound services at our elementary program, which means that they're providing both before and after school services at our elementary site. So as I stated, we offered virtual summer programming in the summer of 2020. And so this summer, our focus was really to try and help students with the new needs that they had. And so we wanted to really encourage their involvement in engaging learning and activities. We were really excited about the number of students that participated this summer, and we're looking forward to serving even more next summer. Our elementary summer program served over 150 students at Longfellow Elementary. The focus continued to be on raising student achievement, but we knew that students had lost instruction in all academic areas, so we did add math instruction to our morning routine. We are using the MAP assessment to measure student growth, and we were really happy to continue our partnership with Dr. Reed and the Iowa Reading Research Center. So their report will look at both spring MAP scores from the 2020-2021 school year, as well as the fall MAP scores that will come out after students take that test next month. So we look forward to getting their report in the fall. During elementary program, as you know, students participate in academic instruction during the morning, and then they have engaging activities in the afternoons. And the district has several community partners that help to provide those opportunities, whether students are participating in martial arts at Sanders Martial Arts Studio or hiking at Hitchcock Nature Center. And this summer, we teamed up with TS Bank and other actually various community partners to provide a hands-on experience where students created their own salsa business. So this was a new elective, and we had stops at TS Bank, at Creektop Gardens, and at the Kitchen Council that's located in Pace. So I worked with Kyle Osborne at TS Bank, and we developed the ideas for students to learn about entrepreneurship through the idea of a farmer's market. And so students traveled to TS Bank to learn about entrepreneurship from Kyle and his team. And then I pulled in 712 Initiative and Creektop Gardens. So students made trips to the gardens and actually helped with the produce. And then Kyle worked with the Kitchen Council and the community partners over there to have the students go and hands-on make their own salsa from that produce. And then on the final day, there was a salsa taste testing that included some community partners. So it was really nice to get the kids to see their final product and learn all about entrepreneurship. It was reported that this was one of our most successful electives, so I look forward to doing more of that, where we're not only connecting with one community partner during an elective, but bringing multiple together. It was a really great collaboration. We also continue to partner with Kids Read Now, and they encourage independent reading during the summer months. And so students receive their first 3 free books at our kickoff event at Longfellow. And then as they finished a book and parents reported that, another one was sent to them via direct mail. So it was reported that over 1,700 books were delivered this summer, which was really awesome. And then our middle school program hosted over 100 students at each session, and this was again at the Henry Dorley Zoo. They're participating in that fun inquiry-based learning, and then continuing to engage in a wide variety of conversations and activities that are centered around the social emotional learning. So teachers use resources from our social emotional learning platform, Panorama, to do lessons and activities around things such as self-awareness and self-regulation. The middle level also maintained really strong partnerships with the community, including venues like Lauritzen Gardens and Fontenelle Forest. And then they also hosted their annual showcase of learning at the Henry Dorley Zoo. So on this final day of program, families, parents, community members, they all are invited to come and explore all of the work that the students have been doing. And we were able to welcome over 100 parents and family members to the zoo. And then they're able to enjoy a free pass for the rest of the day. So it's a really great opportunity for our families, and we're very thankful for our continued partnership with the zoo. Additional staff was hired for our credit recovery program because we knew that we had a lot of credits to recover over the last year. And so this summer, over 200 credits were recovered during the summer program. And that is double the amount that we've been averaging over the last couple of years. So 13 students completed their remaining credits and were able to receive their high school diploma and participate in our summer graduation. We were just really happy to be able to support those students to get back on track toward graduation. And then finally, over 100 students participated in LIFT, the freshman transition program. And during this program, we're continuing to send home those daily discussion prompts to encourage conversations with parents and guardians and students about their pathways and their future readiness. And 97% of our parents participated in those discussion prompts. So it's great to see those conversations are happening at home. So we look forward to continuing to provide opportunities that are focused on the needs of our students, and Lori's going to tell you a little bit about extended school year.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about our extended school year program. Our extended school year program is for students who are identified by their IEP teams or their individualized education plan teams as being eligible for additional services. And they work on their goal areas of reading, math, or social skills during that time of extended school year. So this year, after the year where we were doing some virtual for extended school year, we were able to serve 160 students that actually attended, which represents an increase from previous years, which is very exciting. The students work on the core curriculum, and they work specifically on their IEP goals that they've been identified in need of service for. They work with our special education teachers on specially designed instruction, and we use the interventions that we use during the school years, such as WonderWorks and Bridges. And our students with alternative assessments are working on those essential core elements. We also use a thematic approach, and that's partly to help increase engagement for our students during the summer as they're coming into summer school, and so it just helps a little bit for that engagement. Our extended school year, one of the great things that they love about it are our community outings. We tie them to our curriculum, and we've had some great experiences. We are able to go to the zoo. The students work on their math skills by ordering meals at restaurants and working on using their money skills for that. And then we had a group that their theme was gardening, and so they went up to the splash park and were looking at different flowers, and then they enjoyed a little bit of time out in the sprinkles. One of the things we did this year is we increased our time. In the past, for several years, we've done 3 weeks of extended school year. What we find is typically those first 3 days, kids have been out of school for a little bit, so they take those first 3 days to really adjust. So we added 3 additional days, and that really allowed us to dig in deep for those last 3 weeks. So I think what we saw was a lot more engagement for those strong 3 weeks after those first 3 days. Our work experiences also go on during extended school year. 2 years ago, we increased from 3 weeks to 6 weeks to allow us to meet more needs. And this year, we increased our sites. We went from 4 sites, what we were using, to adding to 6. Jenny Edmond Hospital and then the Healthy Living Center were 2 of the ones that we added this year. Because of that, we were allowed to almost double our students, which was great. And we're serving a lot more students this year. This represents a partnership between Goodwill, VODAC, and our teachers. And so they're working together. We have job coaches from those programs and our own job coaches that go out and help support the students. As you can see up there, they're working at the Y in Goodwill, and they're working on those different skills. One thing we added this year was Permit Practice Camp, which was very exciting. Our TAP program, which is our Transition Alliance program, partnered with the Iowa Department of Transportation for the Skip the Trip program. And so what they did is they had a week-long camp where they helped kids to get their permits. We had some guest speakers from the department, the Council Bluffs Police Department, State Farm Insurance, and then the State Patrol. They came and presented. And then you can see Adam Mann's up there helping the kids learn about how to change a tire. So 22 students earned their permit from this camp, which was really exciting. So Carly and I just wanted to thank you and thank our partners for helping us to provide these programming for students. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Any questions? Discussion?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
At this time, I will move into our informational presentations and invite school leadership. I don't know if Mr. Schultz, Dr. Matthews, Mr. Canon, did I get better? Am I getting closer each time? I'm getting there each time. And we'll present on our first day of school. We're in day 2. And I know that they put together a presentation just to kind of highlight the year, the start of the school year. So, Ruben?
Good evening. First, we want to start off by thanking you for allowing us to present here today. And then secondly, regardless of how your boss pronounces your name, you agree and you say that's exactly how you say it. Thank you. Kano. Yep. So yesterday, we had the privilege of welcoming back about 8,000 students who will be joined by a little over 400 preschoolers starting on Thursday. These students excitedly return to their buildings, their halls, their classrooms at the elementary, middle school, high school, and Iowa Western campus. And so we put together a presentation for you of what their first day looked like. Any questions?
Great video. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's our tradition.
That's right.
Great. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Hamilton to the podium. He will be, am I on? Yes. Mr. Hamilton, you can hear me? Okay. He was just standing there smiling. I wasn't sure if he knew where he was going, or were you okay over there? We have a presentation, informational presentation this evening on our extra and co-curricular annual report. I know many of you received additional information in your, in the board docs, and I'm still like trying to fill in time for you, Mr. Hamilton. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm super excited for us to have this report. We missed it last year with the pandemic, so very excited to have a report from Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln High Schools. So, Mr. Hamilton, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't seem hardly fair that I have to follow that video, but I will.
It has been. I was thinking about that. We did miss it last year. And really, I am here to just introduce the two assistant principal activities directors, but really, we have to think about this in a perspective of the last 2 years. Dustin Detterding as being his first 2 years as an activities director, and think about the last 2 years of things that have happened, and we've had canceled seasons, canceled events. State guidelines for activities completely changed the way we do events. When you go to basketball games or volleyball games, you saw complete changes. Bands weren't performing, didn't perform. The spectator guidelines that we updated multiple times, even in the same season for you. Transportation guidelines where we were taking 2 buses to 1 baseball game in the summer. And so I really have to give kudos to our athletic directors because they were the ones leading this charge and taking this on for us. So with that, I will start, and I would like to introduce Dustin Detterding, our Assistant Principal Activities Director for Thomas Jefferson High School.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
As Tim said, this last year and really the year and a quarter, if you will, presented a lot of challenges, but there are highlights, there are celebrations that came through the challenges, and that's what I'm going to touch on first from Thomas Jefferson. So we had some facility upgrades and improvements over the course of this past year. Included in that are the video board installation in our activities building, new chain link around our practice, track and field area, as well as kind of a facelift to the storage shed out there to really match our campus with that First Avenue project that's going through, so it really blends everything in to look like one campus and doesn't divide it. Our tennis courts are also scheduled to be resurfaced, and a more noticeable kind of entrance down at our baseball field to help direct spectators and everything through there to draw some attention there. In addition to, it was really a summer of celebration for us. Our summer sports participation numbers were higher than they've been definitely in my tenure there, but from talking to some of the other coaches, being able to field 3 levels of teams, both in baseball and softball this past summer was just a great celebration for us, having a true freshman and junior varsity and varsity baseball team, and then also a reserve junior varsity and varsity softball team. We were able to get summer youth camps going again, and that's been a challenge from talking previously as far as attendance. Our attendance has been down, but this summer we were able to welcome 301 grade 3 through 8 campers onto our campus that were working with our coaching staffs, and so that's just another way we were able to connect with our community and get those kids back into the swing of things. Next thing is the challenges that we face kind of in this upcoming year, and it is participation numbers. And with the district goal that's been set, that's challenged us as a staff, as head coaches, program directors, to try and connect with as many kids as possible and get them engaged in all of the variety of activities that we offer. Also, a challenge is the limited access to youth sports. Just providing that extra opportunity for students to develop those skills at an early age so they're able to compete on that high school stage when they get to us. Some solutions to try and address those challenges, and so we are working on kind of a community partnership with the James Spurlock Sports Academy, which is a youth club organization currently focusing on volleyball and wrestling. And they are going to provide a low-cost opportunity to Thomas Jefferson and Wilson students to participate and develop those skills in a competitive setting. They'll have kind of elite teams that'll travel, but they'll also provide some opportunity for kids to practice and work on those skills in Iowa at our facility and then also in South Omaha. We also are going to take an increased focus on our feeder school connections, and so joint events, host events. And what that's going to look like, we have some things that are in the works with 8th grade orientation, where we get the 8th graders coming in, and then also some partnerships with our marching band, working with Wilson's marching band to do a co-performance at halftime of our final football game this year. And so we're going to really try and build that bridge between Wilson so those students feel like they're a part of Thomas Jefferson already before they even get to us. And also just continued focus on the 21st Century School Partnership. Athletics alone isn't going to get us to our goal, and so providing more opportunities for those kids to connect and an interest that they have, and so continuing to foster and grow that 21st Century Partnership so we can provide more opportunities within our school for kids to connect before, after, and during school. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Novotny at Abraham Lincoln.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is year 16. Long time.
But thanks for having us, and I do appreciate this meeting. I think it was last month. One thing I'll talk about before we get my slides, something new, because I try to keep people informed. The state of Iowa, all athletic associations, music, speech, and we accepted it school-wide, had a dead week in July, and it happened to be the board meeting last month. So coaches could have no contact with kids, families just with their kids, and didn't have coach so-and-so harping, get to open gym or camp or whatever. So my wife really appreciated the Sunday to Sunday off, and I know our coaches, even our most involved coaches, really came back and had positive feedback. It was good to get away. So we moved it to this month. I'm glad to be here. We had a really successful year at Abraham Lincoln High School. You met some of the girls tonight, but we had 5 Missouri River Conference championship teams out of 20 total sports. I mean, our conference started in the year 2000, and that's the most Abraham Lincoln's ever had since the start of the conference. 2 state teams athletically were state qualifiers as teams, but above that, multiple state individual qualifiers, not just in athletics, but also in our curricular activities. And then all-state speech and music individuals, which I give a real kudos to them, because you talk about COVID affecting, we got through the sports, but the band, I mean, you guys know as a school board, some of the hoops we had to jump through with the music programs, and really keeping those kids engaged and focused and still performing at an all-state level is a real kudos to speech and music. Like Dustin said, and I think, with COVID, even youth parents were really reaching out for opportunities for their kids. So we had it's outstanding summer. Hard work of our coaches. We offered, I think, 8 total camps at AL. I don't have the exact numbers, but great participation. You might have saw some of the pictures on Twitter, but a lot of kids, not just from Mayo, but all around Southwest Iowa, coming to camps and really getting involved. And what we found out, and we knew, but what we really found out is that that's a lot more than a fundraiser for a program or letting a little 5th grader learn a little bit about basketball or volleyball. It's that connection, not only to our coaches and our programs, but also to our kids, and the good learning experience for those kids working those camps. A parent had a story for me, how a little 3rd grader was scared to be there, but really bonded with her and asked her to be her babysitter, and just really learning that they are role models, and it's much bigger than just winning games and being involved. Some challenges. The participation data, again, that board packet, you guys can look in all that data, but one thing we found out, and there might be various reasons for this, but again, going back to COVID, our senior participation last year really fell, and that really hurt our overall percentage of kids involved in activities. Our girls soccer team was here tonight. We only had 2 seniors in the whole program. Baseball and softball this summer, we had 2 softball players that were seniors, 2 baseball players that were seniors. So, that's past us. Looking forward, we have a lot of kids coming back, so we're really hoping for those, numbers to rebound participation-wise when you add a brand-new freshman class of 360 whatever from Kern. Pretty strong class. So, and this isn't earth-shattering, but one of our challenges that we're always trying to focus on is that direct correlation. Strong youth programs, strong connections to youth programs correlate to our strong programs at AL. And we have those in a lot of our programs, and we're working hard in some of them that aren't strong to develop that, because that is truly the key if you want a successful high school program, building it from the ground up when they're youth. Our focus, again, continue building on the successes we had this year, keep the momentum going. I'd like to say, again, promoting our youth programs that are successful, keeping them going, but also creating more opportunities for those youth, with the district goal of 75%. That's K-12, that isn't just high school. So really building in those elementaries and middle schools, getting kids involved. And that's a big part of our high school programs, to connect with them and making sure they know the opportunities to play a sport or be involved in a music program or be involved in ROTC and all the programs that we have to offer. Some things coming right around the corner. I put up there, girls wrestling. It's coming. There's a big push in the state of Iowa to sanction girls wrestling. And what I mean by sanction is create it as its own separate sport. Right now, I'd call it co-ed. Boys and girls can wrestle at both high schools, but there's a big push to make it more like a basketball program where boys and girls are separate, equal finances, equal coaches, 2 separate teams. So I know Tim and I and Dustin are working on that. I think Tim's going to have some information for you in an upcoming board meeting sometime this year. We do support that. Our coaches support that. It's an opportunity for a lot of girls, we feel, to be involved in wrestling that want to be, but maybe are hesitant right now because it's more of a co-ed program. Esports, I know you know a lot about that. We're really excited about it. Our kids are excited about it. We introduced it through some announcements the first 2 days of school, and the amount of kids asking me, hey, how do I get involved, and making sure they get that time to try out for the team. It's starting out small, with the finances, but I think that's something that could explode. I mean, if you do the research on esports, there's college scholarships. The opportunities out there are endless for esports. So that's a really good program that I know both schools are excited about. And with that, I think all three of us would be able to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
So yeah, I'll ask. So the esports, I'm curious about that. Knowing a lot of the parents that were and had kids that did a lot of gaming, how do we keep them on track for the rest of the school? I'm just curious. It seemed like that was always been a problem with the kids that were doing a lot of gaming in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years that I've known high school boys gaming especially.
Well, the thing about the esports is they're held to the same standards of any of our other athletes. So the fact that they'll have to be eligible just like any other athlete. And it will be after school, so we'll expect them to come after school, and really the camaraderie of it and the expectations, code of conduct, they're all still strictly enforced. So I think there's more incentive there to keep them engaged in school.
Perfect.
So.
I think it'll be a lot like bowling. If you remember, bowling was introduced, it's probably been 10 or 15 years ago. That really reached a group of student athletes that weren't out for anything else. Yeah. And it really got them involved in school. And we've had really good bowling teams here in the last couple of years. I think esports is going to get a set of kids at AL that right now are not probably participating maybe in an Abraham Lincoln activity or a TJ activity, and give them something to tie into their school and be proud of.
Good answer.
I just wrote down a couple of things. I was glad to see the logos for the esports teams, and I thought they were incredible, wonderful. I really liked how they tied the school to Council Bluffs, being able to identify, hey, AL is from Council Bluffs, TJ is Council Bluffs. So I really appreciated that. And I really appreciated the work that the activities directors and assistant principals did at Thomas Jefferson to help the drama team put together their production of Clue, working with Jocelyn Castle and creating such a professional production of a show that I can't remember ever seeing as so polished as it was, and it was truly a delight to be able to see that. I guess my last comment would be, I know Dr. Murillo, and it's more directed to Dr. Murillo, is that I know that our engineers have identified the issue why we're having problems with Thomas Jefferson's tennis courts. And I know it's a budgeting issue, being able to deal with it, but what are our long-term goals to help mitigate this deficiency that we've identified at the Thomas Jefferson courts, so that we can help those students that want to be in tennis not have to go over to Cochran Park or go to another location, but be able to maintain their close contact with the campus.
Right. So currently, we are really working on the drainage system. And so if you see the work that's occurring around the court, we're going to, according to HGM, be able to do some work around that drainage. We're going to watch it and monitor it over the fall, and then resurface the courts if it works. If it doesn't, then we're looking at painting and then looking at rebidding. We would really almost have to tear it out and do it again. So we think that the fix, because what we're hearing from their report was the drainage is not occurring, that's why it's ponding on the top. So we're hoping with that work that you're currently seeing going around that court is going to help resolve that issue. And so we were in cabinet and we were talking about, we should paint. We need to monitor it to see if it really works, and then just resurface before the spring. So the good thing is that we're starting in the fall, and then hoping that the work that they're doing will help us when we get to the spring and season begins. And so that's kind of where we are. If not, then we'll have to rebid it again and hope it comes in at an affordable price. Yeah, yeah. And I know Dustin also mentioned the baseball entrance, and that should be done by the season coming up. And really, it's just the way that we put that baseball field was in a little bit of a quirky spot over to the side, and we don't really have an entry that leads into it so parents know where to go. So we're going to fix that and have an entry that talks about it being our baseball field. So those are kind of some of the extra things that we want to do.
Good. But I have to commend the teams, I mean, doing a great job to keep the students connected. And that's, you know, you tell us every year that that's the one thing that connects our students to the school, is to get them excited about one activity, and just to get them in one. But if we can get them connected in 2 or 3 or more, their achievements increase dramatically just because of that engagement. So thanks for all of the work that you do to help engage students in the schools, and with help from your principals as well. I really appreciate that.
Coaches and sponsors really do the I mean, we have tremendous coaches and sponsors that go above and beyond, and it's, more than just winning basketball games or singing in a musical. It's about those relationships, but you're exactly right.
But the buck stops with you're responsible to an extent as well. So,
You have to accept the compliment.
Yeah, you gotta get the if you're gonna get the complaints, you gotta get the compliments too.
Yes, and we do field quite a few of those. And I will tell you that when we got together, I think it was either yesterday or Monday, yesterday, right? And to kind of talk through this, one of the things Jeff looked and said, 75% is really, really high. And I think he thought that it was kind of resting on just 75% in the high school. But really, we want to see participation all the way at the elementary, all the way up. And really looking at how, and the research really talks about engaging and grabbing those kids and getting them embedded in activities in our schools. And that is so critical. And that is something that we really want to see turn around. We want to see that school spirit. We want to see kids that are proud of their, whatever they decide to do, whether it's extra or co, that they are engaged in it. And we're not looking for how do we field a team. So when I hear we have freshmen JV and varsity baseball, softball at Thomas Jefferson, I'm really excited, because that has not happened for a while. So, and it does come from the relationship with the coach, and it does come from the feeder. And so they get it. And it's something that I've just been preaching for a while. Look at Dustin smiling. Every time I'm checking on it, I'm preaching it, because I know how valuable it is to our community and our students. So thank you.
Before we move on to the resolutions, I do want to thank and recognize all of you here, all of you administrators, principals, and then all of those that aren't with us here tonight, teachers and staff and nutritional services and IT. And we just had the back-to-school event, and I spoke there representing the school board and thanked all of them. I just don't think we can do that enough. The presentations were interesting tonight because we heard about test scores and activities from last school year, which somehow now feels like a long time ago. And then summer learning was sort of a reminder that we get a little break on the school board during the summer, but there's a lot of people putting in a lot of hours and engaging a lot of kids and parents and serving a lot of families over the summer. That work doesn't end. And then we had a presentation about the first day of school and a reminder that, we have a lot of really dedicated educators in our community who are prepared to do the hard work this year and serve our kids, and they deserve our thanks and recognition as much as possible. So,
Well said.
all right, let's move on to our resolutions. First, we have a resolution to set a public hearing for the sale of the Madison campus building. Is there a motion?
Move to direct the board secretary to schedule a public hearing on September 14th, 2021 for the purpose of public input regarding the sale of the Madison campus.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion to set the public hearing carries. Next, we have contract with Iowa Department of Education for access to high-quality child care and early childhood services exploratory project. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I can move that the board of directors approve the contract with the Iowa Department of Education for the access to high-quality child care and early childhood services exploratory project.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion on this item?
Dr. Merlo, do you just want to give the people at home a little bit of a update about what this is about?
Yes. Thank you. This is really exciting to have our governor reach out to Council Bluffs, to the Department of Education, and want to partner with us on this exploratory project. And it's really looking at how a school district can begin to provide preschool for our 4-year-olds, but also begin to look at a school district offering almost birth to 4, so birth to 3, and beginning to really evaluate that. So in the $7 million, we will be able to use some of those funds for the construction of the building. We will also be using those for staffing. And what is really exciting about this program is we're going to have an external consultant that will be working with us to really look at the program and evaluate how we're doing in our 32 classrooms, how we will be really looking at, because remember, K-12 is not really stepped too close into a water of birth to 3, and what that will look like in those, birth to 1-year-old and toddler classrooms, and really helping us develop that curriculum. And then what the state is really interested in is, can this be scaled up to large districts, and can it scale down to rural districts? And really being able to have that critical eye, and then having the evaluation that will probably be done by Iowa University on how well we're doing over the next few years. So we look to take this grant and this funding that our governor has given us and really build a great early learning center that's going to provide universal access for all students, all 4-year-old students in the Council Bluffs community.
Very exciting. Any other discussion?
I do have a question on it. Seems like a lot of times we'll get these different gifts of dollars and things into programming, and then they'll take it away. What's just the cost? I mean, as far as down the road here, what's going to be the cost? I'm just curious. We're going to have to incur in addition from this. I'm not saying it's still, but
Oh, you mean the sustainability
of this, yeah.
of the staffing
Yep.
and the
Like,
program.
are there any ties into this that hand tie us a little bit, maybe more than we
Well,
are prepared for?
we know that this is a priority for our governor. And we're believing, and Dr. Voigtman has done a fabulous job in building relationships with the Department of Education and really helping us kind of have that crystal ball in what will it look like when these are really ESSER dollars, the $7 million. So we know we have to spend it by 2024. And in the conversations that we've had, in the last conversation, in the last meeting, we were asked, what do you see as barriers to this? We're giving you the $7 million to help really get this off the ground for you, and we want to research and study this. And one of it was the sustainability, the funding, because we know that right now preschool is only funded at 50%, and then the district picks up the other 50. And we also know that birth to 3, there is no state
There's no
dollars,
guideline, yeah.
right? And so really working, and they were discussing with us, that is a priority moving forward, is how can we, if we really want to see this scale, either up or down, how does this scale, and how do we now create some funding source for school districts that are looking to take this on? Because we know how critical to our community this is to provide this child care opportunity. And so it is something that right now we're doing a lot with what we call braided funding, where we'll use multiple sources. We're also looking that when we go out and do some our fundraising campaign, that we'll be looking into those areas also. So it is there's a lot of different moving pieces. We know that we have to be able to sustain this, and so does the governor, and so does the Department of Ed.
Just to piggyback on Troy then, on his comments, so hopefully they will come up with a more realistic funding formula for our pre-K students to be able to fund these types of programs, because our pre-K programs look for partners. So I mean, I would think that they would look at communities that might not be able to find those partnerships that we've been so fortunate to be able to find. So, I mean, I would hopefully think that the legislature would take that into consideration and not necessarily penalize our good fortune to be able to find funders for the program, but hopefully fund us at the same level as those other districts. But yeah, 50% is unrealistic for a funding formula for our preschool kids, because we know it costs well above a full-time enrolled student funding for that student. So hopefully they learn a lot from our work.
That's right. Thank
There
you.
definitely seems to be more momentum in Des Moines around pre-K and childcare than there has been in recent past, so. Any other discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion carries. Next, we have a Safe and Civil Schools Agreement to provide services. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the agreement with Safe and Civil Schools as presented.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Finally, we have approval of plans and specifications for district door replacement project. Is there a motion?
Move that the district approve plan specification for the district door replacement projects.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
And this is for safety purposes, correct?
Yes. What we have, that is one of the great things that Mr. Wilson has been looking at for us is, this is an allowable expenditure under the ESSER funds. And so to be able to replace doors, and as you can see, it's about $92,000, a little over. And what Mr. Wilson and his facility department has done is identified those doors that need to be replaced. And so by doing that, we're able to really take care of it much faster than we could have if we had to use our own
General fund,
general fund.
or PEPAL, excuse me, PEPAL funds.
Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. Finally, we have approval of our consent agenda, which includes an MOU with the Council Bluffs Police Department for school resource officers, a consortium agreement with Glenwood, agreement with the High School Zoo Academy, approval of the 2021-22 CSIP plan, approval of Itopia hosted Adobe Suite, approval of amendments to the Transition Alliance Program contract and special education contracts, as well as personal action and claims and accounts. Is there a motion?
I can move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda items? Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the consent agenda has been approved. Now, we are moving on to board member resignation section of our agenda. Just as a reminder to the public, we had 2 board members who resigned recently, and the board has accepted the resignations of John Minshaw and Kyle McGlade. And we had a committee of board members who accepted applications from candidates from the public who were interested in serving in a temporary board position, as the board is required to appoint members to serve in those seats within 30 days of the resignations. Our committee met, reviewed 18 submissions that we received from the application, and conducted interviews last week. And we are recommending to the board appointment of Aaron Johnson and Teresa Hardeman to those temporary board positions. So at this point, we would accept a resolution to appoint those 2 board members.
I move to appoint Aaron Johnson to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of John Minshaw, and Teresa Hardeman to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Kyle McGlade. In terms of these appointments, will be from September 14th, 2021 until November 2021 organizational meeting.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to second your thoughts of, thank you to everybody who volunteered, who applied. It was a great surprise, a happy surprise to see the amount of excitement in the community to come out and assist in the short-term solution of appointing these board members.
Yeah, and I want to echo that sentiment and just thank everybody for their willingness to serve. We were kind of overwhelmed by the response, very positive, and want to also thank Aaron and Teresa for agreeing to enter into this work with us, if not for a temporary time. We appreciate your willingness to serve. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Ms. Shudak?
Yes.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres?
Yes.
Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, and the motion carries. And Teresa and Aaron, I'd like to welcome you on up here so we can, yes, thank you. He's going to administer the oath of office. Come on, do we want to do that from the back here or at the seats? Yeah. Okay, yep, come on ahead and stand around behind your seat, and Mr. Wilson is going to administer the oath of office.
Oh, they want to pitch.
Oh, you want to stand up here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine. That's why I shouldn't be in charge of this.
Yes. Nice.
Oh, okay.
Their hands up in the air.
We didn't rehearse this.
Yeah.
Ready? Okay, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all duties of the office of Director in the Council Bluffs Community Schools, Township of Kane, County of Potawatomi, State of Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice.
Once again, thank you to Teresa and Aaron, and welcome. At this point in time, we have a resolution to go into closed session. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I will move the Board of Directors of the Council Bluffs Community School District hold a closed session as provided in Section 21.5, parent 1, parent J of the Open Meetings Law be conducted to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate, but only when premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the board would have to pay for the property or reduce the price the board would receive for the property.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I don't know. Maybe Dave?
I don't, there's nothing in the law
No, I
that
don't
says
think
that.
there
we
is.
have to.
Dave?
Yes, I did.
Sidebar. We have a motion and a second to enter into closed session. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Arthur?
Yes.
Mr. Kazire?
Yes.
Dr. Ogres? Ms. Shudek?
Yes.
Ms. Hardeman?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. LaFurla?
Yes, the motion carries. And we will move into the Brown Room for closed session.